If you're losing deals at the trial/POC stage, this one's for you. Ever had buyers asking for 1 to 3 month long POCs? What about buyers ghosting you the moment you activate their trial, then asking for an extension as soon as their time is up? Or, my personal favorite, they're asking for unreasonably high discounts or just telling you that weeks after the POC that they went with the competition. Time to say goodbye to all of these. Hi, I'm Victor, a full cycle account executive turned sales manager with over 10 years of B2B sales experience. And on this channel, I cover topics from prospecting to closing and everything in between. On today's episode, I'm joined by Alper Yurder, co-founder and CRO at Flowla, and we're going to talk about POCs. Specifically, what a difference a digital sales room can make so you stay in control during the evaluation stage and win more deals in less time. This is a video I wish someone showed me 5 years ago, and I hope you'll love it. Let's do this. Hey Alper, good to have you today.
Good to be speaking, Victor.
For the folks, a lot of people already know you who are in the LinkedIn community, especially around Buyer Enablement. But for the folks who don't, who are tuning in for the first time right now, can you introduce yourself and what you do?
Of course, I guess I'm an ex-consultant turned ex-sales person turned co-founder of Flowla. We've been building the product for about a year. From our own pain point, I used to be in complex enterprise sales, and I know all the pains of trying to bring a deal to the end, and at the last minute it falls because of things that go wrong. So we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen to others. So we're building Flowla for that. Otherwise, I like travel. I'm a micro blogger on Instagram. If anybody needs tips from Greece, Spain, and Italy, I have an Instagram account we can put in the YouTube description. So that's me.
Fine. Work hard, play hard. Well, again, appreciate you being here. For the audience today, we're on today's session, we're going to talk about POCs. So where we are at the sales cycle is we've got interest, we've done an amazing discovery, both business and technical, and now we are gearing up to run a POC. But what are the challenges that we face in these cases? Buyers are telling us, hey, 2-week POC isn't enough. We need a 1 or 3 month POC. Or when the POC starts, you agree to a start date, you see that the users aren't engaging with the platform. Now they're ghosting you when you're following up and, hey, like we were supposed to start now. And you have absolutely no visibility in who is engaging with your platform and when, or have they completely deprioritized the project? You're stuck and you don't know if you're just wasting time on this project and you should be building pipeline elsewhere. So this is what we are going to solve by using Buyer Enablement. And Alper, so I was wondering, apart from these symptoms that I've been facing that I called out, I know these pains all too well. Did I miss anything apart from these 3 points that I called out?
I guess probably you're spot on. These are all pains that we've faced. Like the reality of it is what? People listening to us, trying to, meet their quota, close more deals faster. What's going to happen with these POCs is, unfortunately, they haven't included all the right stakeholders. And they will discover at some point that is the case because some GDPR person out of Poland pops out of nowhere and at the last minute asks you to, comply with certain things. So I guess a lack of multi-threading is a very common thing. The other thing that happens a lot is what is an enterprise deal or a complex deal or running a POC at the end of the day is it's a pilot to make sure that your buyers feel safe, that they're walking on a journey together with you. They're going to buy your product and they won't look stupid with their stakeholders. They're going to buy your product and it will solve something. They're going to buy your product. You're going to be there to support them. So I think the emotion of it is a lot of fear, anxiety, and worry from the buyer side. So your job throughout that pilot and actually throughout customer experience is to make sure that you are there to support them. So give them a clear timeline. Make sure that you record everything, because if things don't get recorded, they will get confused or at worst maybe a little bit manipulated. I'm sure it's happened to you before, like he said, she said. There will be a lot of that, oh, we said, we can start in a month, but why? So make sure that it's recorded. Or, your buyer might end up saying, well, your colleague quoted me £20 versus the product is £20,000. So make sure that everything is recorded. That would be a second thing. And a third thing,
especially
Mm.
especially if you take over an account, right? The rep leaves, you
Oh yeah,
take over. Hey, a person X told me I can get it for 50% off. Like where? Then you're like scouring through past emails in Salesforce or HubSpot, right?
absolutely. Yeah, I think those sort of things.
Yeah, no, love these. I'm absolutely with you there. But so what's on top of my mind is can buyer enablement help even experienced sales reps, or is it more for just juniors and meteors? Let me give you some context on why I asked. In my previous role, I had a pretty sweet process for running POCs. I got agreement upfront on what we're gonna do, like especially like what you said, document everything. What is the price that we agreed to? You need to do that before the call, so that they don't start asking like huge discounts at the very end. So I had set up, I enabled the buyers during the session, and we did a recap session after we ran the POCs. And it worked for me. I mean, yes, there were challenges, and I'll give you some idea of how I did this. But I'll be interested in your thoughts after I do this quick rundown on how can buyer enablement help solve the challenges that I faced, or it's not really for experienced sales reps because they should just continue doing what they're doing.
I mean, of course, my answer would be yes because I felt the pain point as an experienced salesperson.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear you what you say.
Yeah, in the 1 year of building Flowla, I've been talking to maybe 1,000 people, sellers, buyers, maybe more than that, and we've been doing some research and getting some interesting insights. I think buyers are more ready for this than you as salespeople. Like as a salesperson, you think your process is complex and difficult, and you're trying to like that Greek in Greek mythology. There's this guy I forgot his name. He's carrying the stone over a mountain, over a hill, and just as he's doing it, it rolls over. Well, the buyer is feeling the same. Like whenever I'm trying to buy something, I don't get the right information in the right time. I'm being chased in the wrong time, etc. So if you think from their side, there's a lot of complexity that they need to manage as a buyer. So of course, they need more flexibility, they need more autonomy, they need more availability of information. So before you think about yourself as a salesperson, I think about your buyers. What a terrible, confusing, complex process they're going through to be able to buy from you in their mind, versus how much better of a customer experience you can give. Because there's a Gartner study that says like 77% of buyers think their last purchase was quite complex. So if you think in that context, there's definitely value for the buyer. And if you have the buyer in your mind, whether you're junior, mid, senior, whatever, doesn't mean anything. First of all, it provides value, which is why people come to us and say, like, I close to an enterprise deal with you because people love the experience. It puts you in a certain different place. If you're looking to stand out from the crowd in the way that you give superior service, that you show that you know your sugar, I think a buyer enablement tool can do all of that for you. And then even more no-brainer answer is selling complex products or managing enterprise deals is project management on steroids. And in the absence of a tool like this, you will create your own Excel, you will have your Slack channels, you will have this, that. No, everything is in one place. It's already created for you. And on the plus side, you will not be ghosted because you can actually see how people interact with your product, what kind of content they're looking at. You can engage with them directly. So there's tons of benefits for everyone.
Okay, I'm interested because so you already called me out on a couple of things that I've been doing, but let me walk you through how my process looked. And my process looked, and then see how buyer and the dedicated buyer enablement tool. Buyer enablement is a process. It's a thing that we do, but do we actually need the buyer enablement tool, or can we just stick to our
Yeah.
guns? And for me, that was of course I had a slide deck where everything was, and we used it for setting up the POC. It had all my discovery notes in there that was relevant to the buyer. Basically what was a proposal that I created upfront before a POC. So if the client doesn't have a budget within that range that I proposed, it's not even worth wasting my time on POC. And it was a huge help disqualify a lot of people. Then when we got into the POC, we had a separate Excel sheet or a Google sheet where we were tracking, okay, what are all the things that the must-haves and the nice-haves that the customer wants to, or buyer wants to validate before they can say, shut up and take my money. That's always where I wanted to end POCs. So what are all the things that we have to do? What's the progress? Check that. And when we're communicating, yeah, we want to avoid back and forth emails because people just end up asking the same thing over and over again. Bring everyone together, but we use Slack for that. Like, why not just set up a Slack Connect channel with your buyer organization? They can invite new people in there. Everyone sees who's working on what. It's a quick way to interact. And I mean, it worked. Like, it definitely increased buyer satisfaction, I can tell you that. But what I was facing when preparing for that recap, preparing for looping in the rest of the buyer committee when we're presenting our results is, okay, like where did I communicate this to the client? Was it over Slack? Was it over email? Was it in the G sheet? I was looking for information all over the place and wasn't certain in myself, like, hey, have we discussed ABC? And the other thing, when of course POCs didn't start, because it still can happen when you have a dedicated start date, that engagement just drops and you don't know why. So I was using LinkedIn Smart Links to see if they are checking some of the content there. Of course, I have some insights if they're checking. What I loved is I only gave access to people so for the proposal that I created for my buyers. I only gave access to the people I was involved in. So if a new person needed access, they needed to request access, and then I could map out the account. And all of this is huge in enterprise sales where you just don't know all the people who are involved. But of course, like you already feel my pain. I'm using like 5-7 different tools to manage that single account. Will the experience be the same with a buyer enablement tool, or is the whole or does the whole process get simpler?
You can still use all those 5-7 tools. What we do is we bring all of them in one single link. We bring everything in one place. If you have your Excel sheet on which an IT has to give a check, they can do it on the flow. With a flow, or what a buyer enablement tool is really, I think the more common industry term, it used to be digital sales room. It's almost like being in the same room with the person when you're not, because 85% of sales happens internally. You have your discovery call, you leave the discovery call thinking, okay, I'm going to send you this, that, thinking everything is clear with your champion or whoever you're talking to. First of all, things won't be clear. They won't remember. They don't have the time to go back to your Excel sheet. They don't have the time to search for your emails. Even if you send the same thing 10 times in the best format, they will still be like, it's easier. They will be like, hey, Victor, can you just send me this? How much easier it is then to go back into your inbox and check for things. So because like as humans, we're looking for the easiest, least painful way. And this is why I really love and believe in the future of our tool. It's the buyers just love having access to one single place with all that information. Imagine a CFO 30 minutes down the line, you're convincing everybody, you're sending a lot of information, 50 email threads. On Slack, you talk to your champion. You created another private Slack because you don't want the private conversation between the champion and you to be seen by the people you're trying to influence at their side, right? Because you're now
Yeah,
in
yeah,
team
yeah.
A versus the internal are team B. So all of that happening in a million different places. And now CFO pops out of nowhere. Okay, so let's jump on a 5-minute call. She comes in and she's like, okay, fine, but like I need this information, that. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to share that with you. I shared it with your colleague on an email, this, that. That's just complexity. Like all of that, imagine, is in one place, looks decent, a clear timeline of all the steps you need to go through. Those stages that you mentioned, for example, if you don't want IT to see what finance is doing or vice versa, you can keep those conversations private. Everyone is in an apartment. There are separate rooms. You have the right conversations with them in the rooms. If you want to show or share your conversation with others, you can. And I think even the best thing is we're talking about the external stakeholders, but we're not talking about internal. So, In the absence of a tool like this, how does your client success team know exactly what conversation you had? You need to use also other tools.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah,
You need. How does your, like, we used to use something called Jira, which I really liked back in the day,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
was internal, like a good internal tool to say finance, it's now back to you, IT now it's to you, legal now legal, and then you would go on Slack again because nobody's responding to you on Jira, so you'd be like, hey, finance, I put this. So all of this terrible process is in one link, and I'm looking forward to showing you in a minute.
I can't wait to hear. But I just want, and in case the audience didn't pick up, you touched on a really important point there, which is collaboration. It's not a POC isn't just about giving the enablement to the buyer so that you get to the technical when you reduce their time to value to as much as possible. It's not, yes, that is a goal, but how you do that is through collaboration with the external buying committee and the internal buyer. So the buyer committee at your customer side, and the sales team, the customer team within your side. And that is usually like even three different departments. You have sales, you have marketing, you have customer success, four product. So how do you keep these people in the loop? Because a mistake that will happen unless you have strong collaboration culture internally is you do the POC, customer success is never involved, the onboarding fails, and even if you sell the product, the onboarding fails, and then they churn, you're unable to upsell, and you just missed out on a huge opportunity, especially if you're in a land and expand.
I don't know how many times I've been grilled, or you sell the wrong product, or you sell it in the wrong way. Like,
Oh, that too. Yeah.
how many times client success have grilled me saying like, why didn't you involve us from the get-go? Why didn't you let us know? And I'm thinking, well, because I'm trying to sell, and what I sell you will deliver. That's before I was managing client success teams. So building
Yeah.
that empathy, like as a salesperson, your drive is to sell, and you sometimes cut corners, but then it will hunt you back, and you won't have a very long-lived career like that, pissing off your colleagues, right? So if you create visibility and transparency about a deal with all your stakeholders, when client success team asks you, have you shared this or that document? Yes, it's there. It's on that flow. It's on that flow. Everything is in one place. Can you please check? They don't need to go back to Slack and look for the conversation. They don't need to go back to your Google Sheets. It's all in there.
Love it. Okay, so you have me convinced. It's now it's time to put your money where your mouth is. Can you show us how this uh, entire POC process of prepping for a POC, in all the engagement and managing all the engagement during the POCs, and then doing the POC recap? How does a buyer enablement tool like Flowla help us do that in practice?
Okay, so this is the moment of truth. Before I do that, one thing I'll say, I think to manage a successful POC, as I said, just a very simple recap, is to manage everybody's priorities, anxieties, fears, emotions. So, what you need is to do that in the most time effective way. So, your sales cycle is longer. You make sure that you record everything. Everything is in one single place. It's easy to use. So, new stakeholders pop out of nowhere. A, you get insights. You see who is coming, what are they checking. And B, you're able to intervene. Third point, if you're discussing your IT specifications or your finance thing, you're having the conversation right under that document. So it's happening all in one place. And the fourth point is you create a timeline and hold everybody to account. And the product helps you to do that. What I mean, you assign deadlines, you assign due dates, you assign owners to certain actions. By next week, you're going to check the trial account, you're going to set up your account. But if you don't hold people to account for it, if you don't send them reminders, as a salesperson, you'll be doing the endless chasing and following up, you'll be in trouble. So the tool does that for you too.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
let's jump
So
right
setting
into
up an
it.
action plan, but also making it mutual, like getting buy-in from the customer side as well. And then it
Absolutely.
becomes a mutual action plan that it's not you who's following up, like, hey, have you had time to check this and this, or try out this and this feature? No, it's like, hey, if you want to get this impact, you have to do this. And if I'm correct, you've already done it, but I don't know if you have. Like, can you confirm that we're on track? Like, that's the kind of accountability follow-up that you're doing, and not just herding cats. That's, I think, is a
Exactly.
huge difference. And I love that you called that out.
Yeah. Cool. I'm sure it does a million other things, but people have to just go in and play it with themselves. And it's also a work in progress, right? We're still building it further. So let's see if I can do this on this recording tool. I'm going to share my screen in a second. And I'm going to show you my screen. I won't be seeing you, I think, Victor. So is everything there?
Yeah, I can see it perfectly clear.
Okay. So this is basically the view that your buyer will see. This is your deal room. This is the private space between the buyer and the seller. This link will have
Mhm.
your branded name. So for you, this will be revenueramp.flowla.com, or even not, if you want to, customize it.
Mhm.
This link is a link that you can either make private or share as you like. You can send it in an email. You can send in a QR code. I'm saying these things because I get asked these questions all day, every day. On the
Mhm.
left side is basically how you want to run your stages, or how you want to run the show,
Mm.
right? So, for example, you will always have a summary, a recap of all your documentation, different sections. For example, if you want to make it available for people to be able to book a follow-up call with you, there will be their Calendly.
Nice.
If you want to share some discovery meeting results and you know that this will be shared with the CFO, you can even annotate with a little video, such as this one, etc., etc. So this is me in the midnight with my eyes. If you want to
Mm.
have your recordings, your passcodes, your due dates, etc., everything is here. And the idea is to, once you share this, for example, let's say you share a certain document, like here's the purpose of this POC, here's the buying committee, the selling committee. It's super easy for your buyers to engage with you. Once they receive this link, they can give it a like, they can start a conversation with you. They basically have all the panel of different stakeholders who are involved in this deal, their contacts, etc.
Mhm.
Because this then behind the scenes helps us show you the insights. Who's checking your flow? What documents are they looking at? New people coming in, how much time they're spending, etc., etc. Final thing before I take a pause. If you want to start a conversation, like I think you're already invited to this, Victor, so you will receive this immediately. Hey, Victor, can you add pricing doc, please? And you can do it here
Okay,
already.
so if I really wanted to, I could replace Slack, or for
Yeah,
the purpose
I
of
think it's a
collaborating,
far-fetched
or
for
just
now.
partially.
Yeah, I think it's a far-fetched. Now keep your Slack. We also use Slack. I don't want to go as far as just yet saying like we replace Slack, but I think the way I see people interacting with it is when there's a certain document like POC results, conversation about that
Mm.
POC result happening here. So there's a documentation of some facts, but of course you're not having your behind the scenes chat yet on a flow, um,
Okay.
which you can have on a Slack still.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I was just thinking of, okay, like, so it's more like an augmentation
Exactly.
of
I think
the
you're
Slack
being very
Connect channel
generous
that
and
we would
kind.
set up
But
before.
to be honest, the vision for me was I hate creating multiple Slack channels for people. Can I have a place where I have the document and we have the conversation pertaining to that document so that I don't have to refer to it? I
Mm.
realize I did it the opposite way. If you don't mind, let me give you another minute of presentation about the mutual action plan. If
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay. Excellent. So once you send your link, in this flow, what you will have is your steps about the POC implementation. So this is a very simple one. Yours might be more complex, but my suggestion is keep it as simple as possible, because if you have 10 stages, 20 documents in each, nobody cares. Like you're basically, you know, in the priority list, you will be one of the things they want to do on the weekend because they need to give you time.
Mm.
So I would say keep it simple, a few steps. These steps are very realistic. You generally set up a trial account for the buyers. So there you go. Once you take some action on this, for example, maybe you can go to the flow and start interacting on it with me. I mean, we never thought of doing it this way. I don't know if you have the link with you. You can. Um,
Don't have it right now, but
okay, no problem.
we can
So
go through it.
I'm going to just say something like, okay, this stage is taken care of. Okay, I'll send that message there, and this action will automatically be done. So all these
Oh,
notifications will go immediately to your stakeholders if you want them to see an action has been done. If you don't, they won't.
mm.
And you can switch between to do, in progress, done, cancelled in all of these. And again, you can
Oh, that's
record
sweet.
you can record a video and deliver this message automatically, right?
Mhm. So
So
I
for
no longer
all
have to follow up with my buyers on, hey, like where is this coming, or how is this coming along? I can see that, okay, that task is in
real
progress.
time, yeah, and they get a notification. But if you see that something is not happening, by the way, you will notice that once I have taken that step, the mutual action plan, which was 4 steps, is now a little bit changed because we told the product to modify it. Once a certain step is taken, maybe you have new
Mm.
steps that come into play, like a chicken number
So there's
two.
always an overview of what needs to be done
Exactly.
at an eyes glance without having to look for the next step in the sections.
Exactly. And if this deadline, for example, is not being met, your stakeholders will get a notification again from Flowla. You won't do it. Flowla will do it for you. Like, you were supposed to take this action. Can you please do it? Maybe not. Let's not boil the ocean. I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But
Yeah, so I loved how in the overview of our solutions section you basically had, okay, why are we still talking, and what is the thing that we'll want to validate, and then we go into the actual back and forth enablement part. I think that's pretty much spot on. Um, Maybe one thing. So I called out the specific use case of account mapping, and I only used to give access uh, to, let's say, the presentation to people who I've already been in touch with. And this way, if they share internally, I don't know if they're sharing internally, right?
now you know.
Until they click the link and request access. So is that also something that Flowla notifies me of, that, hey, there's a new stakeholder coming on board? You're probably better off getting on a call with them and do additional discovery to make sure that this project stays on track. Is that something that Flowla helps with?
I love how you set me up so I can show off a bit more. Thank you so much, Victor. This wasn't planned, but I like it. So I'm going to show you two things. One, the insight section, where you can do exactly this, because 26% of winnable deals, they don't close due to three main reasons based on our research. One is you're left in the dark, you're being ghosted. So there is a bit of problem of visibility, both for you as the seller again, but for the buyer too. Because always remember, you might be thinking, oh, now the ball is in their court. They are not thinking that. They don't know. They don't care. They have a million other things to do. The second point is sales rep missteps. So things like not following up enough, not multi-threading, not knowing which stakeholders to involve from the get-go, a myriad of things. And the third point is reducing complexity to the process. You're thinking by adding more steps, more stages, you're creating visibility. It's the opposite. The only way to make sure that you handle the first bit, which is being in the dark, is you need some tool to give you a bit of insights about your deal. And Flowla does that. Let me very quickly show that to you too. There we go. So this deal, the flow that I showed you is what your buyer sees. They will only see
Yeah.
what you want them to see, right? So this is what's happening behind the scenes. So this is the seller's view of how to create, how to add new stages, add new action points, etc., etc. And the real
Mm-hmm.
beauty, the wow point for everybody is the insights that we provide. So once you come into the deal, what you will see is a dashboard of how your flow is generating some buzz with other stakeholders. So you will see your
Nice.
engagement score, how much of the flow is completed, how many views it has had, reactions, so on and so forth. You will see exactly which stakeholders joined it. You will see how your content is being engaged with, like which steps. So, for example, when I send we don't use Flowla just for like managing the deal, but actually from the get go, we send it as a follow up flow, which is how the relationship starts. And almost exclusively, people look at your pricing, your demo.
Hmm.
If you have 10 stakeholders looking at your demo for over a minute, that means there's buzz there. You need to close that deal as a good salesperson. And finally, you will see
Yeah.
session by session how they're interacting with it. So, for example, you joined on October 23rd. You spend a minute and 38 seconds. This is good. This guy might be interested in my tool because he went all the way down, etc., etc. That way.
This is sweet, because like the thing that we're missing, I think, most in sales is how do I reach out to the right people at the right time, and
Yeah,
this does it uh, without, like, especially in Europe we have GDPR. You can't track. There's a limited thing on what personal information that you can track,
yeah,
and here you're staying GDPR compliant basically, but you're also getting the insights that you wouldn't have otherwise on who's engaging, when they're engaging, what they're engaging with, and it lets you ask targeted questions specific to the pains or interest area that they have. So you become a steward, a helper, a supporter of this buyer, instead of a money hungry salesperson who's just
chasing
following up and
relentlessly.
trying to make a quick
Yeah,
buck.
even when you
Love
follow up.
how that helps.
Yeah, I'm sorry I got you there. Even when you follow up in a meaningful way. And the funny thing is, once an SDR from one of our early users started using it, and he was like, "Have you ever used it before cold calling?" And I was like, "No, of course not." And he told me, "Well, now before I cold call somebody, I send a flow. I know what they're looking at, and I have a bit of an information rather than being completely in the dark." Although it wasn't the main use case, that's how he was using it. So I think visibility throughout that sales process, not being in the dark, is something we help with.
Love it. I think just to stay on track, we've already been talking for 30 minutes, but I already see how using a dedicated tool for this can be a game changer. So me as a seller, I'm able to do my job better, close more deals with confidence. Um, but we have been talking about a lot of things. So if you had to call out like the top 3, 5 things that our audience should take away from this session, what would you say those should be?
Yeah. Um, I think for me, selling is advising, consulting, and running a POC is the very first. It's not the very first, but it's a very intense moment in time where you show that you are not just an hungry salesperson, in your words, but you're an advisor. I call it a bit like a therapist. You're the therapist trying to figure out the problem, and if you can solve it, you'll
Mm.
solve it together. Now you're a team. It's private. It's between you. They feel safe. So I would say if you want to be a good salesperson, you need to master consulting skills, advisory skills, and a tool like Flowla or a buyer enablement tool either shows you the best practice, or if you know the best practice, it enables you to do that, right?
Mm.
The second point I would say is you're thinking that selling is terrible, you're losing sleep over it. Buying is also very fear inducing because when your buyer is making a buying decision, they either look good with their colleagues or not. Their problem is either solved or not. They either have a new problem because you're not a great salesperson that they need to constantly seek help from you or not. So, your job is to give your buyer an amazing experience because they seek for it. There are studies that show that buyer enablement will be growing by probably double in size in the next 2 years because people are looking for flexibility, autonomy. So if you give everything to them in one place in all transparency, you're doing a great service to them. So your buyers are looking for this kind of experience, whether you think or not. And probably a third point I would say is a bit in connection to this. Um, Change is very difficult. So maybe changing the way you used to manage Google Sheets, Slack channels, etc., and moving to something like a deal room is going to be hard for you. It's going to get easier because all your early adapters will be using it. So at some point you will have FOMO. But if you want to stay ahead of the game, you can get started with a template. You can get started with, just from an HubSpot integration, all you have to know is that your buyers, when you send them something in one place, Flowla or any of our competitors or a deal room like ours, that will place you in a better place as a buyer in their eye. You will be the person who knows what they're talking about. They will feel comfortable that you're project managing it so well. In the words of our buyers, Flowla helps me stand out. Flowla helps me sell better. Flowla helps me close this deal. Because all the mistakes that you do, inevitably, we help you overcome them, and we help you give a better buying experience. And in an environment
Love
where
it.
there's probably 10 other products which can do the same thing as you need to stand out in some way. So why not in the way you sell?
That's facts. So by the end, you are showing your buyer that they're better off with you than without you. So even though buyers prefer a seller-free experience, maybe in your case, they'll make an exception because they see the value that you bring to the table.
Thank you. You said it much better than I could ever. Thanks.
No, but you said it in more detail. Now we're complimenting each other back and forth. But Alper, thanks for being here today. For sales reps and sales engineers who are eager to give Flowla a try or want to get in touch with you, where can they do that?
Absolutely. Well, I'm on LinkedIn all day, every day, aren't we all? So that's very simple. Flowla.com is the place to start. You can just start with a simple sign in. If people are interested in this template, let's just share it in the way you want to share, and people can just take it and make it theirs, just like a Notion template, basically. But I
Yeah, I'll include a link to it in the description below so everyone has
Because
access.
I'm sure a lot of people will be already using a Notion or sending a page. It's just a static page that nobody interacts with and people don't look at it. Like, let me tell you this. So
Yeah.
give a better tool a go, let's say.
And is this just a show and tell template, or is this something that people who are interested can duplicate for themselves?
Absolutely. They duplicate it. Actually, when they go into the product, we have an inspiration hub where they will have access to all the templates, all the different, like people use it for outreach, closing, complex deal, follow-ups, fundraising. They will have access to other people's flows that they create for themselves, and they can just steal them. Obviously, that's because
So from
those
the
people give
community,
permission
from the
to
community.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's amazing that you don't have to start from scratch. Alper, lovely having you today.
Thank you.
Keep in touch and talk to you soon. See you around.
Thank you, Victor. This was great.
If you enjoyed this video and are hungry for more, you'll love this next one right here. Don't forget to like and subscribe first, and then see you there.